Alright, so we're one visual down, time to move on to the next one. And so far, we're visualizing average annual wage by industry. But we also want to show the composition of the job market that each industry represents. And to do that, we need to calculate the total number of employees by industry. So let's set that up. I'm going to drag this down, and we want to show employees by industry. Copy the formatting from this, apply it here, copy this, paste it here, and this is going to be employees. Now I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and you'll notice that as I move my column width, my bar got a little bit wider as well. To avoid that happening, I'm going to click on it, right click, go to Format the Chart Area, and here in the Size options, I'm going to move my properties, and I'm going to say that I don't want it to move or size with my cells. Close that, make this smaller again, and now no matter how much I move this, my chart is going to stay the same size. Let's bring this back, employees, and now let's copy our industries again, paste them here, and now let's calculate the total number of employees. Now before, we used average ifs to calculate the average annual wage by industry for the current year. But now we need the total number of employees by industry for the current year. So we need to use some ifs. So let's write that. And you'll notice that the logic for the formula is identical. So we want the sum range first, and the column that we want to add up is the employees. The first criteria range is going to be my industry, comma over, and we want to match that industry to these industries here. Now before I move on, remember that we want to delete the reference to the current sheet, so I'm going to do that. You'll see that we're still referencing cell G3. And then the second criteria is for the current year, so the criteria range is going to be the year here, and the criteria is going to be this current year. Press F4 to fix this cell, and like I mentioned, we don't really need to remove the sheet reference here, so I'm just going to close the parentheses, press enter. Let's apply some formatting here, so Control 1, this is a number, let's add some thousand separators, remove the decimal places, and it looks like we've got around 20 million employees for business services in 2020. Again, let's double check. Business services 2020, and the total number of employees is 20 million. So our formula is working. Let's go back to data prep and apply this down. And since we got rid of the sheet reference for data prep in this cell here, now we can sort this to sending without a problem. So it looks like trade and transportation has the most number of employees, and natural resources has the least. But to show the composition, we can visualize this. Go to Insert, and we used bar charts here because we're showing comparison, but now since we want to show composition, we can use a pie chart. And I'm actually going to add a donut chart, just because I think that they look a little bit better, but you can choose whichever one you want. Now we can add a title, so it's actually going to be share of employees. We can maybe move the legend over to the right here, just so that our donut is a little bit bigger. And if I right click and format the data series, we can make the donut hole a little bit smaller. Whoops, maybe 60%. Make the title bold. And even though I made those changes, let's get rid of the chart border as well. You'll notice that there are simply too many slices, even though they are sorted, to get any meaningful information out of this chart. So before we move on to the next lecture, I want you to think about what we can do to make the story here clearer.